Good evening, it's 8 o'clock. The top headlines tonight, the Ukraine devastation. As the count of human casualties grow, as entire towns have been destroyed, bodies being taken out. NDTV witnesses this firsthand. In fact, an international war crimes prosecutor investigating this speaks to NDTV on his findings. Meanwhile, a Russian Navy warship is grounded, destroyed by Ukraine. BJP stalwart Minister Eshwarappa is forced to resign. Defiant just yesterday, he's forced to go today by the BJP. The minister said, I don't want to embarrass the chief minister and national leaders. A contractor's last message for his suicide said, Eshwarappa and his associates asking for bribes caused my death. The Congress keeps under pressure, says arrest Eshwarappa. With elections next year, the BJP's damage control forcing him to go. A museum of all India's 14 prime ministers inaugurated today. Prime Minister Modi buys the first ticket to the museum. This will showcase the work of all India's 14 prime ministers, irrespective of ideology and tenure, says the government. COVID cases in NCR schools. Parents worried as cases rise. Some schools shut completely. Delhi announces SOP, says private schools must notify the government of any cases and that they must close the wing or the entire school depending on the number of cases. The Delhi Chief Minister says don't panic, hospitalizations are low. This year's monsoon will be normal, says the centre, but climate change is a spoiler because the frequency of high-intensity rainfall which can cause floods and devastation will increase. The heavy rain is increasing because of climate change, says the government. Love, smiles and laughter. The Alia-Ranbir wedding, the shaadi sealed with a kiss. All the excitement as the Kapoors gather for that small, intimate wedding. But the lead story tonight, NDTV reporting from Ukraine. Today, as Vishnu Shom and the NDTV crew travel across the country, we report the human casualties that we see as entire towns have been destroyed. In this NDTV exclusive, Vishnu Shom speaks to an international war crimes prosecutor who is also in Ukraine investigating this evidence.
Well, we are now in the town of Borodyanka. As you can see, there is widespread destruction all around. So we are actually going to go to one of the areas where we are told it's relatively safe to get to because the worry is of landmines and things like that in this area. This is a housing complex, it's an apartment complex which has been completely destroyed by the Russians. And as we've been saying repeatedly, as they retreated, they planted landmines which have slowly been diffused by and large by the Ukrainians. But the reason I actually stopped over here is, Ashok, can you focus on that bear? This is obviously where a child once stayed. And it's a vivid sort of reminder of what actually took place over here and the civilian loss of lives which took place. You can come up over here a little bit more. As you can see over here, it's bizarre. It's just in the middle of nowhere. This building which has been completely obliterated. There's this giant teddy bear of a child. This used to be the home, presumably, of a child. There's a broken cell phone over here as well. There's a carcass of a cat over here. There's a teddy bear, there's an umbrella, there's a broken cell phone. Could you tell us what brings you to Borodyanka specifically amid so many reports of Russian atrocities?
I think probably the same thing that's brought you here.
Right.
It's the reports that crimes within the court's jurisdiction, the jurisdiction of the International Criminal Court, may have been committed. I sent a team of investigators here yesterday. We're working also, I'm being shown around by the prosecutors of Ukraine and the investigators here. So I want to have my own impression of some of the allegations here in Borodyanka. We went to other towns yesterday as well, and we'll keep on doing our job to make sure we get to the truth. I'm not targeting any country. I'm looking at crimes, or all parties to a conflict, whether Ukrainians, whether they're Russians, have responsibilities to comply with the laws and customs of war. They have an obligation to comply with their own statute obligations because Ukraine has accepted the jurisdiction. And we will look with an open mind, looking at the investigations, conducting investigations, and we will make determinations based upon evidence, and that's what's required.
The biggest danger of actually operating here in Borodyanka are landmines. This is a landmine which has actually been diffused a little while earlier on. But there are a couple of signs like this, and we've repeatedly been told not to travel or get onto these grassy patches, stick to the middle of the road, which is what we are trying to do. This has been demined, which is why we are here, but we need to be careful in this entire area because, as we've been reporting, the Russians have been planting mines, or have planted mines all over the place as they retreated, to prevent Ukrainian forces from actually gaining access to a lot of these areas. Traveling over here comes with a whole set of risks, but imagine what people over here, just be careful where you go behind, but people over here, imagine those who actually survived Borodyanka and what they saw. We also had an account of a woman who saw a young girl who says she was raped by Russian soldiers. So these are also accounts that the International Court of Justice will be looking at very, very closely.
Vishnu reporting there from what really is that unspeakable devastation, and those poignant pictures of teddy bears, of children, bodies of a cat, and the bodies which are buried there under that rubble. Meanwhile, this comes as we are in 50 days of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and in a major setback for Russia, a Russian Navy warship has been destroyed by Ukraine. The Russian Navy Black Sea Fleet flagship has been crippled in the war, Moscow has confirmed. The cruiser Moskva has sustained major damage. Now, this is remarkable, especially because this was amongst the most heavily armed and defended warships, not just of Russia, but of global fleets. Lots more on Vishnu's Ukraine reporting at 9 o'clock. But first, the other big headlines. So, the Minister Eshwarappa, who has been called Mr. 40%, has been forced to resign after his defiance, and protests are now currently on of supporters. Now, really, Shrija, this really proves the fact that Eshwarappa, a stalwart of the BJP in Karnataka, how difficult it is to actually have got him to go. But the BJP felt it was left with no choice given elections coming up.
Well, firstly, we must understand that, yes, of course, there was pressure from the central BJP and then to the Karnataka unit here, of the BJP as well. We are also understanding from our sources from the BJP that, he was already asked to, tender his resignation just yesterday. But what we are also hearing from our highly reliable sources from the BJP is that in fact, he did inform them saying that he needed at least about a day or two, an extra time before he could tender his resignation. But today, again, just within a matter of 24 hours.
Yes, Shrija, so as you're saying, in fact, let's just go to those pictures full frame. The point of the extent of support that Mr. Eshwarappa has, he was, of course, a very powerful minister, won several times Shivamoga, and also become a hardliner in recent months there to cement his position. So, with the exit of Eshwarappa, is he likely to go quietly? The supporters' protests also clearly, in a sense, engineered.
Well, very clearly, one cannot really ignore the fact that because just yesterday, where we did see K.S. Eshwarappa, despite the mounting pressure on the government and also the opposition, both the AAP as well, including AAP and Congress, both of them, going onto the streets protesting, demanding his resignation. Now, one of the major bone of contention, of course, was not just the resignation of K.S. Eshwarappa, but also, if you're really going by the FIR, though he is the accused number one, which is abetment to suicide, side, there is no mention of corruption charges. Now, that was the major bone of contention as far as the opposition is concerned. But just like how you pointed out, saying that he is a hardliner, because of course BJP is not clearly in a state where they can just sack him or oust him from the party, because he's a most important member here, after B.S. Yediyurappa as well, because of course B.S. Yediyurappa being a Lingayat strongman, now he was also one of the major contenders as far as chief ministerial replacement is concerned, right after where B.S. Yediyurappa had to be removed, and
fact,
he was one of the major contenders because he's from the Kuruba caste.
I just want to in fact replay exactly that 24 hours change, because first defiant yesterday and then today saying he doesn't want to embarrass the national leadership and the chief minister.
इस्तीफा बोल जो पूछ रहा है डेफिनेटली मैं इस्तीफा तो नहीं देगा
भारतीय जनता पार्टी ನೇತೃತ್ವದ ಸರ್ಕಾರಕ್ಕೆ ಗ್ರಾಮೀಣಾಭಿವೃದ್ಧಿ ಸಚಿವನಾಗಿ ನಾನು ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಾನು ತೀರ್ಮಾನ ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೇನೆ, ನಾಳೆ ದಿನ ಮಂತ್ರಿ ಸ್ಥಾನಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ರಾಜೀನಾಮೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಇದರ ವಿಚಾರದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ನನ್ನನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಿದರೆ ಆ ಯಾವ ಹಿರಿಯರಿಗೆ, ಮುಖ್ಯಮಂತ್ರಿಗಳಿಗೆ, ರಾಷ್ಟ್ರೀಯ ನಾಯಕರಿಗೆ ಯಾರಿಗೂ ಕೂಡ ಇರುಸು ಮುರುಸು ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು. ಆ ಒಂದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೆ ನಾನು ರಾಜೀನಾಮೆ ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ.
ನಮಗೆ ಈ ದೇಶದ ಕಾನೂನೇನಿದೆ, ಈ ಕಾನೂನಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತ ಕಂಪ್ಲೇಂಟು, ಅವ್ರು ಬರೆದಂತ ಪತ್ರದಲ್ಲಿ, ಸಾವಿನ SMS ನಲ್ಲಿ, ವಾಟ್ಸಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್ ಚಾರ್ಜ್ ಅಡಗಿದೆ. ಆ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಹಾಕದೆ ಸರ್ಕಾರದವರು ಹಂಗೆ FIR ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 36 ಗಂಟೆ ಮೇಲೆ ಪೋಸ್ಟ್ ಮಾರ್ಟಮ್ ಆಯ್ತು. ರಾತ್ರೋರಾತ್ರಿ ಹೆಣನ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ರು ಅಲ್ಲಿಗೆ, ಬೆಳಗಾವಿಗೆ. ಹಗಲೊತ್ತಾದ್ರೆ ಮಧ್ಯ ಯಾರೇನೇನು ಪಾಪ ಎಲ್ಲ ಅವ್ರ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರ ಗೌರವ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು, ಅದಕ್ಕೂ ಕೂಡ ಅವಕಾಶ ಕೊಡಲಿಲ್ಲ. ನಮ್ಮ ಒತ್ತಾಯ ಏನಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ, ಮೊದಲು ಆನ್ ಕರಪ್ಷನ್.
Well, the other big story today, the Prime Minister today inaugurated a museum of all India's 14 Prime Ministers. He also bought the first ticket to this museum, which the Prime Minister's office has said is to showcase the work of all of India's Prime Ministers, irrespective of tenure or ideology. Interestingly, of course, the museum is situated in Teen Murti estate, which was India's first Prime Minister, Nehru's earlier residence.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi buying the first ticket for 100 rupees for the new museum showcasing all of India's Prime Ministers at Teen Murti Bhavan, which was the official residence of India's first Prime Minister, Nehru.
कि हमारे ज्यादातर प्रधानमंत्री बहुत ही साधारण परिवार से रहे, सुदूर देहात से आकर, एकदम गरीब परिवार से आकर, किसान परिवार से आकर भी प्रधानमंत्री पद पर पहुंचना भारतीय लोकतंत्र की महान परंपराओं के प्रति विश्वास को दृढ़ करता है.
Apart from Nehru, there are museums for Lal Bahadur Shastri, Indira Gandhi, whose residence in Luton's Delhi were converted after they died in office. This has prompted the Congress to question if this is a precursor to closing down these memories.
इतना बड़ा सेंट्रल विस्ता बना रहे थे, मुझे खुशी होती अगर उसी में वो थोड़ी सी जगह पूर्व प्रधानमंत्रियों को भी देते. क्या उस उतने बड़े घर में उनके पास देश के थोड़े से पूर्व प्रधानमंत्रियों के लिए जगह नहीं है?
The new museum is expected to be a new tourist destination, especially for the youngsters, with new technologies being used to engage and make it interactive and a tribute to all former Prime Ministers. The Teen Murti Lawns has a new structure, the Prime Minister's Museum, which is an attempt to make it all-inclusive for all former Prime Ministers, not just Nehru or Indira Gandhi or Lal Bahadur Shastri. But the big question remains, what will happen to those memorials which are spread across the capital? With camera person Sachin Gupta, Sunil Prabhu, NDTV.
Well, in other news, there's worry as cases are rising in both Mumbai and Delhi of COVID, though the good news is that hospitalizations remain low. However, look at the numbers. In Delhi, COVID cases up 37% in a week. In Mumbai, COVID cases are up 17%. Now, in many schools are also reporting COVID cases and some of them are shutting down. The Delhi government today said all private schools must notify the state government if there are COVID cases, and either the wing or the entire school should shut down if these cases are reported.
Crowds without social distancing and no masks, as now cases have started rising in Mumbai and Delhi. The national capital on Wednesday witnessed a jump of over 48% in daily cases compared to Tuesday. Positivity rate increases to 2.79% from 1.12% a week back. Active cases rise to 515 from 367 in a week. Daily COVID cases rise by 137% in a week. The Delhi government says no need to panic yet.
Hospitalizations नहीं बढ़ रहे और अभी चिंता करने की किसी जरूरत नहीं.
As COVID cases are now being reported in the schools as well, the Delhi government has come up with fresh guidelines for the safety of students. The first guideline includes that if a COVID case is reported in a school, then that wing or the entire school may be shut down for a brief period of time. Second guideline mandates the students and the teachers to wear masks and maintain social distancing. And the third one is about proper hand hygiene and awareness drive among students and teachers as far as the COVID appropriate behavior is concerned.
पेरेंट्स के मन में कंसर्न और इतना बड़ा ये जो पैंडेमिक आया था, सभी लोग डरे हुए हैं और अगर दोबारा से इस तरह के केसेस आते हैं तो हम चाहते हैं गवर्नमेंट पहले से ही कुछ स्ट्रिक्ट एक्शन ले ले.
मैं लगातार नज़र रखे हुए हूँ, किसी भी स्कूल में कहीं एक भी केस आता है किसी टीचर या किसी एक बच्चे को, तो उस वक्त स्कूल भी हमको रिपोर्ट कर रहा है और हम भी स्कूल को जो भी दिशा निर्देश हैं इंडिविजुअली दे रहे हैं.
In neighboring Gurugram, where cases have gone up 100% in a week, officials are suggesting a return to masks.
And in the district task force meeting, it was decided that we propose government again for COVID appropriate behavior or maybe compulsion of mask. So we are planning to cover all 60 plus people by Har Ghar Dastak.
In Mumbai, a noticeable spike in daily COVID-19 cases, with the city reporting 73 new COVID cases on Wednesday. Between 31st March and 6th April, the city reported 283 cases. And between 7th April to 13th April, the city reported 331 cases, a 17% jump in a week.
Mumbai's civic body, the BMC, says that the latest spike in the number of COVID cases is not a cause for panic, and such patterns are expected in the life cycle of a pandemic. However, it warns citizens to continue wearing masks and practicing social distancing.
XC वेरिएंट को लेके पूरी दुनिया में जो है बहुत चिंता फैली हुई है. महाराष्ट्र में भी स्वाभाविक है कि इसके ऊपर सतर्कता बनी है.
While cases are rising in some cities, the overall COVID count remains stable, with about an average 1,000 cases being reported across the country in past 1 week.
There is a very small uptick if you look at the total number of cases in number of cases of COVID-19 in different parts of the country. But I think it is not at all a problem at the moment, since the intensive care admissions and total number of deaths and also the test positivity, these rates are not very high.
An NDTV Bureau report.
Meanwhile, India's biggest vaccine manufacturer, Adar Poonawalla, the Serum Institute, which of course makes the Covishield and Covovax vaccines, has said that it's good that mRNA vaccines like Pfizer and Moderna didn't come here, because he says made in India COVID-19 vaccines have provided much more protection against COVID.
कुछ देशों में जहाँ मैसेंजर आरएनए वैक्सीन वापरा था, वहाँ बहुत सारे हॉस्पिटलाइजेशंस और केसेस हो चुके हैं, क्योंकि ये मैसेंजर आरएनए वैक्सीन इतनी अच्छी तरह से प्रोटेक्शन नहीं दे रही है. ये बहुत अच्छी बात है कि ये देश में हमने ये फाइजर और मोडर्ना की वैक्सीन्स इंट्रोड्यूस नहीं की थी, क्योंकि देखिए आप यूएस में तो दूसरे और तीसरे बूस्टर की जरूरत है, और हमारे देश में तो भगवान की मेहरबानी से हमारी वैक्सीन बहुत अच्छी तरह से सब देशवासियों को सुरक्षा दी है.
But moving across to the other big international headline, and that's the world's richest man, Elon Musk, who is Twitter's single largest shareholder, now saying he wants to buy Twitter 100%. Twitter shares have already gone up. And why does he want to buy it? Well, he says that he wants to run it much better as a private company. And of course, many are questioning that whether this would be a precursor to the former President Trump returning to the platform, because of course, Mr. Musk has views on freedom of expression which differ greatly from Twitter's management.
Elon Musk, the world's richest man, has made an open offer to buy 100% of Twitter. He's already got over 9% at $2.9 billion, and now he's ready to pay approximately $43 billion for the rest at a premium. Twitter says it will review the offer to decide the best course of action for the company and stockholders. Musk explains in his note to the regulators why he's doing it. I invested in Twitter as I believe in its potential to be the platform for free speech around the globe, and I believe free speech is a societal imperative for a functioning democracy. However, since making my investment, I now realize the company will neither thrive nor serve this societal imperative in its current form. Twitter needs to be transformed as a private company. Following Musk's decision to back away from the board seat, Twitter CEO Parag Agrawal sent out a note to the company saying that this was the best for the company and that while they value input from shareholders, the decisions that they make and how they execute is in their hands and no one else's. It is worth noting that as member of the board, Musk would not be allowed to buy more than 14.9% of the company. His option of a hostile takeover remains on the table. Musk, however, says this is not a threat and it's an offer Twitter shareholders will love. They will now determine if he's made them an offer they can't refuse. Rubina Mongia, NDTV.
Well, the other big headline is that this year's monsoon is going to be normal, said the Ministry of Earth and Sciences in their monsoon press conference today. However, this is the worrying part, that the impact of climate change will be visible in this year's monsoon with the frequency of high-intensity rainfall, which can, of course, lead to floods and devastation.
From the observational data, it is evident that the excess rainfall continues to increase over the last few decades, and also the light rains are decreasing. So the heavier rains or maybe the extreme rainfall increases may be attributed to the climate change, and that's a fact.
Well, let's go across now to what are perhaps the most romantic visuals of the day, and that's the Alia-Ranbir shaadi and their first public appearance as a married couple. So, one thing that they've definitely done, Rohit, is they've completely changed around the image of a big fat Punjabi wedding. Take a look. It's intimate and small. So Rohit had all the ingredients of a great Bollywood romance, lovely visuals, a lovely couple. We wish them all the happiness. But it's completely not a big fat Punjabi wedding. They've redefined that. The Kapoors have completely redefined that.
Absolutely, you know, the band Baja Barat is just outside where the media and the paparazzi are. Clearly there's, you know, you can see this beautiful lane lit up, you know, that this is absolutely like a film set. But you're right, you know, absolutely no band Baja Barat, no major celebration. They kept it intimate, and also hope, Sonia, this does not start a trend of people getting married at home, because we would like to attend a lot of weddings.
Right, Rohit, of course. And let's just look, and now it's all about making it Insta official first. So we had some guests, and of course, Alia. So let's just look at that beautiful series of pictures. They're coordinated in pastels and picture perfect for the camera. So let's just take a look at those Insta pictures put out by Alia Bhatt this evening. So you can see there, sealed with a kiss, and lovely pictures being posted there by Alia and Ranbir. A small wedding, I think less than 50 people. And apparently the bride will be back at work within a few days. So what else is planned, Rohit? What do you know about it?
Right, so Alia will, Alia will head for her Hollywood project next month, early next month. So if there's a reception, this month end is it. Otherwise, Alia leaves for a film with Gal Gadot. Ranbir Kapoor has film commitments here. So all work, no play. That's the plan for this couple. And if there's a, because of COVID, we missed out on a lot of receptions like Varun Dhawan's. But hoping that somewhere end of this month, when they have a gap, there's a big fat reception which we all would like to attend, and all the fans would like to see all those film stars walking the red carpet wishing this lovely couple.
Right, Rohit, so as we said, less than 50 people at the wedding, and apparently there was a picture of the late Rishi Kapoor, Ranbir's father, at the mandap, a huge picture. He was greatly missed by everyone, and it was just very, very intimate family and friends. We saw some of the pictures being posted there. Tell us about that.
Right, it would be any father's dream to see his son married off, and also, marrying, they were sweethearts, they were living together. Alia has always spoken about Ranbir Kapoor as her love, and whether it was a time when she saw him when she was just 11, and every time we asked her, or it was Coffee with Karan, she expressed her love for Ranbir Kapoor. He, on the other side, is a bit shy and a bit private person, but in my recent interview, he praised Alia to the skies and said, in Gangubai, she's performed and hit it out of the park. He said, while Alia in my interview said very clearly that in my head, I'm married to Ranbir Kapoor for many years, while Ranbir kept it private and said, I can't say this in an interview, but the intention is to marry soon. So all the rumors are laid to rest today. They are man and wife, a married couple, two of Bollywood's A-listers are now one unit.